Hello everyone, and in today's video I'm starting a new series on the channel where I'll be building a Lego amusement park. Because the city is almost done and my old amusement park looks like shit. So let's start off by removing my old amusement park and getting in a new table. That's also 30 centimeters taller, making it easier to see what's on top. This table is about 5 base plates wide and 3 base plates deep, or slightly smaller actually, as the base plates go just over the edge. But that will be a problem for future me. Now I'll just fill in the rest of the table with some base plates, which to me just looks so beautiful. But let's go through the plan I have for the park. There's quite a lot of space, but also quite a lot of stuff you could have in an amusement park. So the goal is to make it packed with attractions and details. So I'll start off in the far right corner where I'll place in the big white and red roller coaster. Next to it on the short side will I place in the carousel. And the last big attraction I'll have here is the Ferris wheel that I'll place on the opposite side of the table, which will create a nice and big backdrop to the park. Next to it am I going to place a custom bumper cars model. And after that is it only to fill in the last areas with some smaller attractions, games and shops. And I can of course not forget to build an entrance to the park to greet everyone welcome. The plan is currently quite basic and is going to change with time, but this will at least give an idea for how things is going to look. Let's go ahead and put the plan into action and start off with what I'm confident where it will be. And that is the white and red roller coaster. And after quickly making some space for it, can I finally place it into the park. And I have to say, it's an awesome Lego set and I can't wait to see the end result of the park. But before doing anything more, do I have to fix the problem I hinted at earlier. That is that the table is not quite 3 by 5 base plates, making some of the roller coaster hanging outside of the table. So to fix that, I'm starting off by removing the base plate that is currently there. And with that done, can I move the roller coaster 8 studs to the left. And this introduces another problem as well, since the roller coaster is slightly bigger than 2 grey base plates, leaving a first 4 stud gap without any base plate to rest on. There is no base plate that Lego sells that will fill that gap, but that's nothing a knife can't fix. So the plan is to cut a 4 by 48 stud base plate to fit in that area. And how I cut my base plates is by first using some plates to line up where I want to cut, before using a utility knife to drag across the plate to get the perfect cut. And I usually do this process many times to make sure to not mess up. Then when it's cut, do I smooth it off slightly by dragging the knife along the edge of the base plate. This is also important to remove any excess base plate that may have made it slightly bigger than it's supposed to be, meaning it wouldn't fit with other base plates. Now that that is done, can we go ahead and add it into the park. But again, did this not solve the problem? Since if I added a grey base plate next to it, can we see that it's still an 8 stud gap, which means I'll have to get some more base plates. And looking onto the short side, can we see that I can fit one 32 by 32 base plate, as well as an extra 12 studs. So to fill in the rest of the table, do I have to go back to the cutting board, fixing some more base plates I can use. But with that done, can I finally fill up the entire table with base plates. And an extra little plus is that almost all of them are light bluish grey, making it slightly more pleasant for the eye. But what's really pleasant is the fact that it fits just perfectly on the table, with no overlap. But let's start off by adding in the next attraction, the Ferris wheel. And I've only kept the most important parts to save on space, as this is not a terribly large area. But everything still works as it should, with a platform that can move up and down, and with the ability to motorize it, which I have a plan to do. But to do that, I have to regulate down the speed of the motor. This can be done using the simple gearbox, which turns down the speed on the scale of 1 to 9. So by placing it in, do we see that the 2 small knobs turn at a quite perfect speed. Next, let's add in the 2 massive pillars that will be holding up the Ferris wheel. And with those in, is it only to add the wheel itself and it's all good. And as we can see when I turn on the motor, does it all work. And it has a quite pleasant speed as a Ferris wheel should have. And while I'm on it, can we quickly motorize the roller coaster as well. And here is there already a gearbox that gives it a nice speed, so I'll just use that and add in a little motor and a battery. And with that, can it also go around giving me a great start for the amusement park. So let's go ahead and integrate the Ferris wheel slightly better into the park. Starting off by adding in some fences to keep the queuing lines. And in the middle, I'm adding in a little pond to add some nice detail and some nice color. So I think this is a great start, but there's a whole lot more work that needs to be done. So let's get it out of the park and over to my workbench, where we can fix the rest of it. So I want to fill up all the sides with green plates to represent grass. And on top of that, we'll add in some plants and other things. And then I'll have to tile the paths in front. And another important thing is that I want to cover up the battery box and motor so you don't see the ugliness of it. So let's start off by placing in all the green plates. And this is quite basic, as I'll add in more details later. But I have to start somewhere. And the backside was slightly more challenging, as I had to try and keep all the functionality there, as well as covering up the electrical stuff. As well as trying to make the backside under the grass nice looking, with layers of grass, dirt and stone. As if I move the table around a bit, will you be able to see what's under the top layer of grass. But in the end, I think it turned out quite okay, at least for a first draft, and all the functionality is still there. So let's move over to the slightly more detailed building, where I'll try and smooth out all the ugly edges and sharp corners with some smaller plates. This process went quite nicely, but I had to end slightly before I wanted, as I really don't have any more green plates. But I think the result is good enough. There isn't any more areas that I think is bad, but I would like to spend some more time on it. But let's move on and add in some bushes, flowers and other plants. And luckily, I still have quite a few of those. So let's get that placed in. And I'm a bit unsure what I'm going for here. I'm really just trying to fill the space a bit. And I think my unsureness is getting through to the final product. As I have to say that I'm not 100% happy with the result of this, but it'll do for now. But this is definitely something I'll have to get back to later. Perhaps I'll put the battery box inside some kind of electrical house instead of trying to cover it up with grass, as it's adding a lot of elevation to an otherwise flat model. But time will tell. Now let's get the paths tiled. And this tiling pattern is what I'm going to be using for the entire amusement park. So it's important that I'm happy with it. So my plan is to at least use these 1x2 tiles in light bluish grey, since I have a lot of them. And I think it can make for a really cool pattern. Even though I have a lot more 2x2 tiles. Oh well, nothing I can do about that now. But for the pattern there are a lot of options to choose from. And here I've put together 6 different ones. The first is just placing them next to each other, which looks way too plain and boring for my taste. The next is alternating what way it's going, which is definitely better. The next is placing them in a staggered pattern, which was my original plan and what I'm doing in my Lego city, but I think I can find something more interesting. The next is the best so far, as it's a bit of a combination of the last two, but it's still not perfect in my eyes. The next I'm not doing, but I was just trying to figure out more tile patterns I hadn't done yet. And lastly, do we have the pattern I decided to use, which you can see in many cities and other places. And I'm not sure how to describe it, but it looks awesome. So let's get that in the park. So to build it, do you place a diagonal line of 1x2 tiles one way before adding another line of 1x2 tiles the other way. And by repeating that process, do you get the pattern I was talking about. And when tiling, do I of course make sure to leave lots of studs open to place minifigures and other details on later, like this bench and trash can in front of the pond. And I'm really quite happy with it, but the Ferris wheel is currently quite dead, with not a single minifigure in any kind of proximity of it. So when placing minifigures in the carts itself, do I not think it works just placing normal figures, as they become way too tall. So my solution is to take off their legs and use a brick for the adults and a plate or two for the kids instead. This way can we get a perfect height for all the minifigures. And as you don't see their legs either way, doesn't it matter that they're non-existent. Now let's fill in the rest of the carts with minifigures. trying to create stories along the way and figure out who would take the Ferris wheel together. Friends, families, and couples for the most part, but also some loners, astronauts, and construction workers. Now with that done, let's add someone to control the carousel before adding in the rest of the figures. And I added in a little 9 3/4 platform sign because I had it laying around, so I thought it was a good opportunity to use it. And next to it, let's place Harry, Hermione, and Ronnie having a standoff with Draco, with what looks like an unsuspecting bypasser getting caught in the middle of it. But with that is the Ferris wheel finished, and it looks quite nice. And adding in the minifigures really brings much needed life and atmosphere to the model. Now let's place it back on the table. And before ending this video, let's place back all the bricks showing the plan for the park. And I think that really adds something, making the park feel a lot more full and showing all the exciting stuff yet to come. But with that, I thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.